everyone, what is going on, and welcome back to today's video. In today's video we're going to be getting into another operator guide, and in today's operator guide we're going to be going over Ella. Now Ella has been requested for a long time on my channel, and the reason I've been putting it off so long is because I am no professional Ella player. This guide's probably going to be pretty basic. I know obviously majority of these guides just go over basics of the operator, weapons, recommended weapons, stuff like that. It doesn't really go over like the, I don't even know what the word is, like the top tier skills of the player. These aren't that in depth. They're kind of just an introduction to each operator and to try and like outline stuff that you could do better with them if you didn't know already, which is obviously something I can cover with someone who plays the game quite often. I know most of operators and how they work, but if you're looking for like an incredibly in-depth guide, this probably isn't the one for you. This is just going to go over how I can introduce you to Ella and how I recommend you play her. But with that said, that's enough of that. Make sure to leave a like on the video if you do end up finding it helpful or enjoyable. Also, make sure to come check out my streams. Links in the description, 7:15 PM Australian Eastern Standard Time. Basically every day, unless I'm doing something else, but that doesn't happen too often. And also come check out the channel. Obviously, if you're interested in more videos, drop a sub on the channel. Notification bell on, all that. I'd appreciate that a lot if you could do that. And with that said, let's get into the video. So as always, we're going to start off with the weapon review, move on to the gadget utilization, and finish off with the operator strategies. So without further ado, let's get into the weapon review. So Ella has access to two primary weapons. She has access to the Scorpion Evo 3A1 as her first primary weapon on 23 damage on a 1080 rounds per minute fire rate. As you can tell, this damage is incredibly low. It is definitely on the lower end, but it is an SMG obviously, and where it picks up for that lower damage is its fire rate. It has over 1,000 fire rate, which is obviously not the most. It's not on every gun in the game. It's quite rare. So if you have that type of fire rate, it's obviously going to shoot a lot faster and it's going to deal a lot of damage quicker, which makes up for the lower damage. But in terms of when a gun has more fire rate, obviously it comes with a lot more recoil, and when there's a lot more recoil, it's obviously a lot more difficult to control for newer and even advanced players, and it will take practice to get the hang of. You'll see in the clips in the background, I haven't practiced with this gun whatsoever. I honestly barely ever play Ella, and the clips in the background you see is just me trying to work with Ella, obviously in Terrorist Hunt. They'll get better as they go, and with that said, it's just consistency and teaching yourself the weapon that's always going to teach you any weapon in this game. So, to give you a recommendation on how to, if you can learn how to get this weapon down pat, you will be an incredible defensive threat. Ella is still a really good operator, and the best way to teach yourself this is obviously just do what I'm doing in the background. Load yourself up into a Terrorist Hunt and just practice until you get her recoil down pat enough for you to feel confident that you can take this into a ranked game. Once you get this sorted, you will have no problems, and as long as you put enough practice in, you can master any gun. So if you put the time into this Scorpion Evo, you will 100% master it and get that all over the place, cleaning up people all over. Now, in terms of her other primary weapon, she has access to the FO12, which is the Ella shotgun, otherwise known. 35 damage on a trigger finger fire rate. This thing is an absolute weapon. It shoots incredibly fast. It does a lot of damage for a shotgun. This thing will ruin the fuck out of you if you're playing against someone who knows what they're doing. Roaming with this is just a completely deadly threat, and it is one of those situations where honestly I'd recommend playing either of her primary weapons depending on your situation, because this shotgun is just incredibly powerful. And I'm sure majority of you guys have had, if you've played Siege for a bit and you're not a complete beginner, you've probably had an instance already where you've ran into an Ella and she's just absolutely slammed you, and you've probably thrown your controller outside your window. That is the shotgun that you are coming in with, and if you can master this weapon, which really doesn't take too much, it's kind of just, it does have a little bit of a kickback. It will fling up after you shoot it, but if you learn to just, if you put a little bit of practice in, you'll learn to just hold it down like most other shotguns, and it really won't be a problem. And this thing will absolutely mow through people if you utilize her right, which we'll get into soon. Finally, she has access to the RG15 pistol, coming in at 38 damage on a trigger finger fire rate. One of the few pistols that do have scopes in this game, so it is 100% useful, but I'm not going to dwell on this for too long because I talked about the other weapons for a bit too long. She has access to a deployable shield and barbed wire gadget. Either of these can work. If your teammate's looking for a deployable shield, Ella can probably bring one, and if your team needs barbed wire, Ella can bring barbed wire. Both of these are quite essential and useful objects, and I don't see why you couldn't bring either of these when you're playing Ella. Neither of them really affect her personally because she's more of a roamer, so both of these are side holding objectives, obviously side holding gadgets, so I'd say just bring either one that your team requires. Now getting into her gadget utilization, she has access to 3 Grismot mines, which are concussion proximity mines that can be anchored on surfaces, impairing hearing and causing a dizzying effect. So if you don't understand what this means, she has 3 sticky gadgets in her arsenal that you can stick on any surface pretty much. It will stick as long as you, well, it does, it literally sticks anywhere. You can stick this anywhere, as long as you don't throw it out of the map, obviously. And this will just stick somewhere, and when someone walks in, they will get an incredible, like, dizzying effect, as it said, where your screen will completely go, it's kind of like a bluey, blacky, I'm not really sure what the color is exactly. It's kind of like it's like her hair. It's like the color of her hair type of color. It's kind of blue. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. It's like teal. Anyway, we won't talk about that any longer. And then this just goes all over your screen, and it also completely disables your hearing for the first few seconds, and then you slowly regain consciousness, or, well, not really consciousness, but you regain your, like, effects after about a solid 5 to 6 seconds after you hit this Ella charge. Unless you're Zofia, she obviously heals back from it quicker, because she knows how to counter it, because she's Ella's sister. With that said, this gadget can be utilized incredibly well if you guys think about it correctly, and this is 100% a great ability you can pair up with the roam. If you do bring this on a roam, you can catch enemies off guard with the Grismot, and then you can swing corners, etc., and just absolutely mow through enemy teams. And this, honestly, is probably the best way to utilize Ella. We'll get into that soon, obviously, in the operator strategies. But with that said, this gadget can still be effective on the site. You can obviously just put it on site pushes, but the problem is this thing can still affect friendlies, so you don't want to put it too close to a common entry point or a common anchor spot, because it will affect your teammates as well, and they'll have the same type of disorientation that the attacker has, so it'll be a fair gunfight as soon as all that disorientation wears off. But don't get me wrong, you can still be effective while you're disoriented if you have enough experience going into disorients. You can't really see much for the first second, but after that it's kind of just a kind of disoriented gunfight. Like, half your screen's taken up by this nonsense, whatever effect you want to call it, dizziness is what they refer to it as, and then the rest of it is just kind of back to normal. So you'll kind of get your hearing back, and you definitely can't assume that just because you're affected doesn't mean, or the other person's affected doesn't mean they're not going to shoot at you. But with that said, I'd say the best way to utilize Ella's Grismot is 100% on the roam, because I believe she is definitely a roaming operator. She always has been, no matter how many nerfs they apply to her. So they 100% should keep you should utilize them off-site, but they can be useful on-site as well if you prefer to play anchoring roles when you're playing operators. But if you are an anchoring character, I don't think Ella's the operator for you. And finally, getting into her operator strategy, she is 100% a hard roamer. She is obviously a hard roamer. She has access to 3 speed. She has access to a great weapon that can be utilized very efficiently if you learn to master it. Obviously, with that high fire rate, you can deal damage incredibly quickly, and it's just, obviously, this game's a headshot game, so if you're hitting heads, it doesn't really matter how much damage it does. It's always going to clean up the enemy no matter what. And along with this, she also has access to the shotgun, which is another great weapon you can utilize for hard roaming. Her loadout just completely brings into the hard roaming style, along with her gadget, which can be utilized obviously on the roam. Playing this on a random door that an enemy may push through, they come on through, they get that disorient effect, you come swinging around the corner, you're 100% going to have the advantage. Obviously, you're not invincible, I believe I've already outlined this, but you 100% have the advantage over someone who can't hear you and is disoriented. So if you can make the use of this effectively, you can 100% be a deadly threat on the defensive side with Ella. And just roaming in general, you can 100% be a deadly threat with any type of roamer, Vigil, Cav, etc. if you just utilize their abilities and their guns to the full potential that they have. And hopefully this video does help you out in that sense when playing with Ella. I forgot about this before, but I never really did go over my recommendation of weapon. I'd 100% recommend you always bring a SMG, etc. for siege related stuff, because shotguns are cool and all, but shotguns, they're kind of like, they just don't really work with siege. Obviously, there's situations where it's going to work, they're going to do really good, and Ella's shotgun is 100% one of those shotguns that you can kind of work with. It 100% works incredibly well, and it can be utilized incredibly effectively if you pull off a really good flank or just a great push that you can kind of, I don't really know what the word is, you can kind of just eliminate people off the rip without getting into those gunfights, because that's where shotguns come in handy. But in majority of situations in siege, you're probably going to be taking a little bit of range gunfights, and that's why I always recommend bringing that longer range weapon. Obviously, if you feel confident enough to use the RG-15 in a longer range fight against ARs, SMGs, etc., then bring the shotgun for show. There's really no point going against the shotgun if you feel like you're confident enough with that. That's why people use the shotgun on mute and smoke, because they have the type of power in the secondary as in the SMG-11, so they don't really need a great primary weapon, so they can utilize the shotgun for rotations, etc. Ella can also be used this way, but I feel like 100% you should bring the Scorpion Evo as her primary. It is her best option. It is a great option, and I just 100% recommend that you play this on Ella. And with that said, I think that's going to wrap up this video. I hope I packed enough information in here for you guys to actually understand Ela and find something useful out of this video. If you did find it useful, make sure to leave a like on the video. If you're also interested in checking out more guides, gameplay, etc., all Siege related, make sure to drop a sub with the notification bell on this channel. I upload here daily, and I hope to see you guys sticking around for a few more videos. I hope they're enjoyable enough for you guys to watch. And with that said, I also do stream on Twitch as much as I can. I stream there essentially every day pretty much as well, except for maybe one day off a week. Yeah, I like to stream. I really do enjoy streaming. I'd love to see more of you guys there. Links in the description, twitch.tv/vextinction, obviously exactly the same as my YouTube name. And with that said, I think that's enough talking from me. I don't really have much else to say. I wish you guys good luck on your adventures with Ela, and if you did find this guide useful, make sure to go comments down below and let me know what I did right or what I did wrong. With that said, that's enough from me. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.